Hello guys, ET99 here and welcome to this video, a very overdue video. This is basically the review of the Paul Gallen versus Justis Huni fight that I personally attended. Basically just going through all the things that did happen, and I'll try to be splicing a little bit of footage that I got. I didn't get much, I didn't record like any of the fights or anything. We in, baby. Just everything of like the pre-build for the fights, but we'll go through all the fights and some of the things that happened on the night as well. So before we actually go into the fights, there was one thing that I did notice, and it's something that just hasn't really left me from the fight night, was this fight was not sold out. So right here is a picture of that I took. This was, I think it was around just before the second last fight, before the Carlos Hardman fight, was this picture of obviously there being a bunch of empty seats. I actually went just before, because the doors open at about 5:36ish to get into the actual venue, and I just looked up on Ticket Tech to see if you could buy tickets, and there was still a fair amount of sections where you could buy up to 10 tickets. Like, it's just a really weird thing that I have noticed, since, because I thought this would be a sold out thing. I mean, it's for the heavyweight title, but no, it didn't happen. So yeah, I just thought that was a bit very, very odd. So we got in, obviously. I think they allowed the doors opening to the actual inside the venue at about 6:15. This is pretty much the view I had of the ground of the venue. It's pretty good. It was basically the cheapest tickets that I could bought, if people were wondering. It was like $60. So then we go into the actual fight. Now, the actual fights. So first match was Jason Whateley versus Victor Oganov. This fight was, I mean, it was an absolute whitewash. Whateley absolutely dominated the fight in the rounds. It was surprising it went up to round 4, round 5, but Oganov only got like a few punches in throughout the entire fight, and Whateley just dominated him. And then they obviously they threw in the towel, and Jason Whateley got the one by towel throw. I think it's technically regarded as a TKO, which I think was all the fights were all TKOs. None of them were by knockout. But yeah, a good solid win by Whateley. But it just felt like this was just like in wrestling, they have like this big muscular man and they wanted to get him over, and they basically send a jobber out there to get the shit beat out of him. This was pretty much the boxing version of that. So next up you had Nort Beauchamp up against Goodman, and if you did watch the event or you were there personally, you'd know that Goodman had a lot of people there cheering for him. Basically everyone he's ever met, next pretty much was all there to see him. It was a good fight. It was definitely Goodman. It was a good showcase for him, for his fight. It was for a vacant title. I couldn't for the life of me remember what it was for. I'll just put it like down here what the title that was on the line. And Goodman won again by ref stoppage. It was a good win, and yeah, it was very interesting. In the actual interview afterwards, he brought up about, because I think he was the underdog for the fight, and he was like $5 on Sportsbet, and he was basically said a comment along those lines saying, cheers everyone who had me at $5 on Sportsbet, even though Palmerbet was actually the promoter for the event. So it's a bit of a interesting one there. Next we move on to Alex Hanan versus Andrei Mikhailovich. So basically this was probably probably the most evenly booked fight. Booked. It's like, oh, it's fake. Now, even like petting fight, both fighters really quick. But when they were doing the referee was giving the like the rules of where the two guys come in for like touch gloves. Well, they have time to touch gloves. Alex Hanan actually jabbed Mikhailovich in the stomach and backed away. And I was like, oh, okay. So we got someone who's a little bit cocky. It's like, you just hope for his sake that he doesn't get embarrassed in the fight, and be one of those when karma strikes. Then cut to the second round when Andrei Mikhailovich drops him about 3 times, and then the ref has to stop it, and Mikhailovich wins in the second round. It was very interesting to see in the press in the in the interview afterwards, Mikhailovich actually calls out Isaac Hardman for a fight. So yeah, so there's some character development. I'm very much comparing this to like wrestling for some reason. I'm not exactly the best when it comes to covering boxing. The semi-main event, we saw Emmanuel Carlos against Isaac Hardman for about 4 different titles. I think there's just too many belts when it comes to boxing. It's very hard to catch up. It was Emmanuel Carlos had 1 belt and Isaac Hardman had 3 belts, and it was for all of them. It was fairly even out, but I feel like Emmanuel Carlos did get a little bit burnt out too quickly, and then Isaac Hardman finished him off. I think it was round 4 or 5, and got the win. He did comment on the Andrei Mikhailovich call out, and he's like, "Oh, I don't know who he is," kind of wicked banter that fighters do have. But yeah, it was a good win there for Hardman. And now we go on to of course, the main event of the evening: Paul Gallen versus Justis Huni. In terms of the crowd dynamic for this fight, it was actually very split. It was probably about, I'd say, 50-50 between people who were cheering for Gallen and people who were cheering for Huni. I'll be honest, I was going for Huni because I feel like I should be cheering on the guy who's a 22-year-old Olympic gold medal wanting Australian champion, and not a guy who's a former rugby league player that's going through a midlife crisis. But yeah, but fair credit to Gallen. He got the fucking shit kicked out of him. Not kicked, but you know what I mean. But he stayed in there, and very good credit to his own. I know there was points like in the mid rounds where Gallen didn't even land a punch, whilst Huni just basically let him get tired, and then of course nearly goes the full distance, but Gallen gets knocked down. And it got to right near a 10 count where the referee just saw Gallen was out of it and they waved it off. Justis Huni remains undefeated and still the Australian heavyweight champion. So yeah, that was that was all the things that happened with the fight. But there's a few things I do want to talk about from this. So the announcer for the fight, I can't tell you what his name is. I forget what it is, but he did this thing during. I don't think he did it through every fight, but he did it through like a fair amount of them. I think it was like 4 out of the 5. They'll go in, the crowd would go a bit silent. He'd call for the crowd to start cheering, like during the fight, during a round, and it's like, and then the crowd would cheer, and then it just stopped. And like, to me personally, it's just I do not like that. It's kind of like, it's basically like 2 things really. It's kind of like the announcer trying to get himself over, and then also it's basically just holding an applause card, like an applause sign for when they're filming a sitcom kind of thing. It's like manufactured atmosphere. It's just not something that I'm a big fan of. And so yeah, I do honestly have a feeling if this fight event was in Newcastle, it probably would have been sold out. But I feel like they did it in Sydney because they wanted actually people to cheer Gallen, because to be completely honest, if that fight was in Newcastle, no one would be cheering for Gallen, because basically an example of this was at the Zoo Hogan fight. There was an interview done but with Gallen, who was there, and everyone booed him. Booed him to kingdom come. So yeah, I wanted to initially make this as a vlog kind of thing, and I was thinking about doing a pre-stream and post-stream fight afterwards, but like my phone went dead and still got that strike issue going on. But yeah, I didn't get enough footage. It's basically just like me outside and just a few pictures, just that's all that is to it. But yeah, I will be going to the Zoo Zarafa fight. I'm fairly certain I'm probably not going to make a vlog of that, because I'm actually going with my brother and my father to the fight, so it'd be kind of weird just sticking a camera in their face. It's like they know that I do it, but it's like, it's a bit weird. But yeah, so that's my my review of the Paul Gallen Justis Huni fight night. It was a good night overall. I've been really getting into the boxing things. So yeah, I've been so much so, but looking for like other events to go within New South Wales to watch boxing, and yeah, it's been really good. It's something different, something new. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later. What is this? Bro, they've got fog machine outside. I'm outside the centre. I've got like an hour to go. Going through the fog. It's oh god, we got fountain. Yeah, fountain.